Do you feel that in the air? Do you feel it? Welcome in the Thursday, December 12th edition, 2024, the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Got you here for the next 2 hours. 480-864-1060 is the phone number for you to join the conversation here today on the program. And I asked, it was not a rhetorical question. Do you feel it? Can you feel it in the air? It's back. It was away for a little bit. It's back. That is today's Daily Special.
Time for our top story of the day. It's the Daily Special.
Because Suns basketball, it wasn't really a thing for the last week or so. It hasn't counted. I mean, it has counted in the records and for the standings, but it hasn't really mattered to any of us here on this program. But it's back. Friday, they're going to take on the Utah Jazz, and we can enjoy Suns basketball again. It's allowed. Because all reports indicating, Shams Charania yesterday reporting it, reports out of Suns practice yesterday, Kevin Durant looks to be on pace to be back in action when the Suns hit the floor on Friday night against the Utah Jazz. We were waiting for that news yesterday here during the show, and after yesterday I compared the Phoenix Suns to Saturday Night Live. We now get to watch a good episode of Saturday Night Live because Kevin Durant is back. We can enjoy Suns basketball once again. Yeah, if we would have had 3 more games to dissect here on this show after we basically told everybody, and I'm not changing my opinion on this, but we told everybody here on this show, you know what? Kevin Durant not playing, you may want to do something else with your time. You may want to take those 2-3 hours, get just other stuff done around the house. Right, get those chores done. I don't know, free up your weekend to be able to watch football all day on Sunday. Like, I found you a couple of hours during the week where you can just do other stuff. Because if Kevin Durant isn't in the starting lineup for the Phoenix Suns, why bother? And that's not a shot at the rest of the guys on this team. It's just the reality. They're 1-9 this year when Kevin Durant isn't in the lineup. This going any further, this going another week, this going another 10 days, however much further it could have gone. Now, mind you, we have to see him in the lineup on Friday. All signs are pointing towards that. He was supposed to get reevaluated yesterday. He was referred to as being a 90% participant in practice yesterday. So we are trending in the right direction. It certainly feels as if when Friday rolls around, when tomorrow night rolls around, we will see Kevin Durant on the floor for the Phoenix Suns. Now, so we can flip the switch back on. Okay, this is the Suns team that, is good. This is the Suns team that has all the expectations on it. We can go back to watching that version of the Phoenix Suns. The warning, and it's not much of a warning at this point, because if you choose to not do this, it's on you at this point. I can only say this so many times. I can only be the messenger on this a handful of times before it falls on you. The responsibility falls on you. You're joining this program. You listen to this show. First of all, we appreciate that. We're happy that you're here. We're happy that you've joined the family. But at the end of the day, I'm a messenger. I share a message. If you don't listen to the message after the 3rd or 4th time we share the message, that's a you problem. So the message is simple. You can get excited that Kevin Durant's going to be back in the lineup. You can get excited that this team is getting healthy. You can get excited that this is going to look more like the team that started the year as one of the best teams in the Western Conference. You can do all of that. You need to temper your excitement a little bit, because just as quickly as Kevin Durant returns to the lineup, we have seen this story before. Somebody else could leave the lineup. Kevin Durant could leave the lineup again. I'm not rooting for that. I'm not trying to put it out there. It is just a reality of this team in its current state. They got back Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal the last time. This is a long list here, but the last time we did this, they got Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal back, right? Devin Booker was carrying the Suns, or attempting to carry the Suns, all by himself. And we saw how difficult that task was. You lose the two of the 3 stars on your team, it becomes much more difficult to win basketball games. Teams could just focus on Devin Booker and ask everybody else on the Suns to beat them. And it was not going very well. They got those guys back. We didn't make it through 2 games. And Bradley Beal picked up another injury. And then he missed some time. And they're managing his calf and his ankle. And then, while we were dealing with that, Kevin Durant got sidelined again. We've played 20-something games. And we've already gone through this a couple of times. Yeah. It would be, let's see here. It would be like somebody who is a day trader on Wall Street in the stock market. Some days it's up, some days it's down, right. But that's kind of what it is being a Suns fan on a day-to-day basis. You look at it from the bigger picture, you hope that it runs like the stock market runs over a larger period of time. Your 401k grows because you look at it in 3-month, 6-month, yearly chunks. When you look at it day to day, I am guilty of this. I check the stock market every day. When it's down, I get a little upset. When it's up, okay, that's a good day. But that is what it's like being a Suns fan if you are going to live and die with this team on a day in and day out basis. You are a day trader on Wall Street. That's what you are, because there are going to be some days where it's really good, and then there are going to be some days where it's really bad. You hope that at the end of the road, this is a year where the entire stock market is up and the Phoenix Suns trend in the right direction over time, and these little blips along the way are forgotten about. The problem is, I don't know if we trust the Phoenix Suns the way we do the stock market. I just don't know if we do that yet. It is a low bar to clear, but I don't know if we do that. I don't know if we trust them. I don't know if that trust will ever come back during the regular season. I know their trust with me is certainly lost. I'm not going to listen. If Kevin Durant comes back and he plays well, it's almost, yeah, told you so. Like, this is what it's looked like at the beginning of the year. There's nothing that Kevin Durant can do in his return to the lineup other than if he came back and they started to play poorly. That would be a totally separate conversation. But if he comes back and they pick up right where they left off, which is exactly what they did the last time Kevin Durant came back into the lineup against the Lakers a couple of weeks ago, and they pick up right where they left off, that's what they're supposed to do because it's what they've been doing. The question mark around this team, the question mark hovering over this franchise is, are you going to be healthy enough for a long enough period of time? Kevin Durant's return to the lineup doesn't change that. You're still going to watch every game, and I think win or loss, you are going to, I think, breathe a sigh of relief every time the game ends, and you're not waiting for the post-game press conference to hear an injury update on one of the big three. That's a win in and of itself. Every time one of those games goes by where we're not having that conversation or we have that dread and we're able to breathe a sigh of relief, that's a win in and of itself. Oh, but if those would count as wins, no matter what the result is on the floor, well, I don't know about that, Producer Corey, because there have been a lot of times this year where the game has ended and the Suns won and you're like, okay, I need an update on Bradley Beal. I need an update on Kevin Durant. So this team is going to be healthier, it looks like, on Friday. They're going to get back to being more resembling of the group that started the year as well as they did. That looks more like the group that when Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal returned to the lineup in that game against the Lakers, looked as impressive as they did in that game. They're going to get back to being close to, if not at full capacity, with that group. If the results come in, it's going to be as expected. If the results don't come in, questions are going to fly. But I don't know how we can truly do this every single day when it comes to this team. I just don't know how feasible it is. It's like day trading the stock market. There are going to be days we come in here and it's good. There are going to be days we come in here and it's bad. You have to try to look at it through the bigger picture. You have to try to. It's hard. We're in here every day talking for 2 hours. And if another injury pops up, and it's an extended absence, at some point, I don't know if I'm there yet. I'm getting close. I'm not there yet because it looks so good when everybody's on the floor together. They've just dug themselves a huge hole here because Durant has missed time and they're 1-9 when he's out of the lineup. But I'm getting close. I'm not there yet, but I'm close. Where if another injury or two pops up, like in the next couple of weeks or so, and somebody has to miss some time, and we're going to talk a little bit later on here in the show because I yesterday on this program told all of you, don't get excited about Jimmy Butler. Don't do it. Don't start dreaming up the scenarios. If I know yesterday we talked about how it's not right. It's not happening. It's not happening. We talked about that yesterday. I said, I know there are Suns fans out there that want it to happen, and I know the report that came out after we got off the air yesterday that he's added the Phoenix Suns to the list. We'll get to that in due time here on the program, because it's one thing for Jimmy Butler to say that he wants to play for the Phoenix Suns. It's another thing for them to land that plane. It's another thing for them to get the deal done, and I will explain all of the pitfalls that come with that a little bit later on. We will get there. But if this team continues to have injuries, they're limited in what they're able to do roster-wise to make this team better. That's the point I was making with the Jimmy Butler aside. We are going to get to a point where we need to have some serious conversations. And I know we say that a lot here on the show, but I believe that is that is one of the strengths that this show has. We let things play out. We react when things are required to be reacted to, and we try to take the big picture approach. And we always say, we'll find out in due time. These conversations will happen later, because it makes no sense for me to open this microphone here today and say the Suns need to trade Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal, and they need to trade Devin Booker, and they need to blow the whole thing up. Is it a possibility that we get to that point? Yes. And there are reasons why we would get there. We're not there yet 20-something games into the season. Are we trending that direction? Yeah, if these injuries keep popping up, we're going to have those serious conversations. But we're not going to, ahead of time, when it's not warranted, when the team is still in the playoff race, when the team is about to get back their star player, we're not going to put the cart in front of the horse. We're just not going to do it. We will at some point if the team's play warrants us to have that conversation. Just like today, the team's play kind of puts them in this middle ground where the Jimmy Butler thing kind of makes some sense. We're going to throw some cold water on that today, because I just don't see it. So we are trending towards a Kevin Durant return. We are trending towards them being healthy. Now it's up to them to sustain it for a long period of time, and hopefully the results continue to match what we have seen from this team when Kevin Durant is healthy on the court. Coming up on the other side, this is nothing original. Everybody else has done this. I'm just hopping on board. Chapel Bill. It is actually happening. I was wrong. I will own up to it. We'll do it next year. Lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. I was wrong. I said, no chance. No shot. No way. Bill Belichick would accept the job at North Carolina. Didn't think he wanted the job at North Carolina. Didn't think that it was even a remote possibility that Bill Belichick would want to and end up coaching in college football. I thought he was just entertaining a possibility, and if they were going to throw an absurd amount of money out towards him or at him, that it would be hard to say no. But I just didn't think that that number was going to reach a number that was going to make him want to go to college. He had never coached in college in the past. His dad had been a longtime college coach, spent 33 years at Navy. If it was the Navy football program that was asking Bill to coach, I could maybe see the emotional connection there. I know his dad coached for 3 years at North Carolina. Clearly, that tugged on Bill's heartstrings here a little bit. I also think ultimately what came to this determination is that he, and I'm halfway through. During the break, I was reading a story from ESPN.com about Bill's decision, and it's talking about how he got to this place. And he has a group of guys that he speaks with every week on a Zoom call. Those folks are Josh McDaniels. It is Matt Patricia. It is Michael Lombardi, who is joining him as the general manager there in North Carolina. You are familiar with Lombardi if you listen to any of the VSiN coverage that we have here on the station. He's leaving that post to go join Bill in Chapel Hill as the general manager of this football operation. Those four gentlemen meet on a weekly basis because they're all four out of football, at least in terms of coaching in the game or being an executive in the game. They all have their various things they do outside, right? Lombardi with VSiN, Bill with the stuff that he does with McAfee and Monday Night Football with the Mannings and all that stuff. So this conversation that they have on a weekly basis, they go through all of the games. And one of the things that this story points out, and again, I'm only a couple paragraphs in, but they were trying to figure out which jobs would potentially be open for Bill Belichick and which ones they thought were the best situation. And they came back to one spot being the one that made sense, and it was the Chicago Bears. But in their conversations, and this self-awareness I think is really important, because they said in their little meetings when they talked about this that they recognized that the Bears weren't going to do this. The Bears weren't going to hire a 72-year-old Bill Belichick. They were going to hire a young offensive mind to work with Caleb Williams. So while the Bears were the best situation for Bill Belichick wasn't best for the Bears situation. They didn't think the Bears were going to look at it that way. And so then they got to this place of college. And we now know it's a 3-year, $30 million deal, so $10 million a season. I thought it would be a little more than that. But Bill is going to go in there, and he is going to run North Carolina like it is an NFL program. He's going to bring in a general manager that's going to oversee the recruiting process, the NIL process, the roster building process. He's going to work in tandem with Bill on that, but he's going to take a lot of that off of his plate. You are then going to have Bill hire a bunch of assistants. His son is certainly leaving Washington and is going to come over there and be the DC. We'll see who he ends up getting as his offensive coordinator. They have work to do. See, this is splashy. And I'll tell you how I feel about it, whether I think it's going to work or not here in a little bit. But I think it's important to know that if this was years past, if this was, let's say, a decade and a half ago, and Bill did this and he took this job, he could take this job, he could start, putting together a plan for recruiting, identifying, hey, what has this program not done well in the past? What states have they not recruited well? What is our recruiting plan going to be? And you can put all that in place. Bill Belichick has missed 4 days of the transfer portal being open. In today's NFL, in today's college football, that's precious time where players could have committed to North Carolina if Bill was there. So he is behind. In years past, I don't think he would have been behind. He could have settled in and started to develop his recruiting plan and to start getting the people in place to run his recruiting operation. But now he's got to go. Now, I don't worry about his ability to go. He's a guy that works 14, 15, 16-hour days, even at 72 years old. He's going to be able to do it, but it's just a lot of work in quick order. They got to hire these coaches. They got to start attacking the transfer portal, and they have to start to put together a competitive roster. He's 72 years old. He's not doing this for a decade. He's not doing this for 20 years. He wants to do something. He wants to be able to say that he conquered college football. Bill Belichick is not taking this job just to collect a paycheck. He is taking this job. He's taking it at North Carolina because of the connection with his dad, who was there for 3 years. I know he's put a lot on that. I don't see why those 3 years are such a big deal, but okay. That's how he made his determination. That's what's important to him. I'm not going to tell Bill Belichick what's important to him. He's got a bunch of trophies that show that he makes some pretty good decisions in his life. And so he is going to have to hit the ground running. He is taking this job. He is picking this university because he wants to win. He wants to add a college football playoff championship, national championship, to that trophy case with all those Super Bowls. That's what he's in this for. And we can debate whether or not that's possible, whether or not that's feasible over the lifetime of this 3-year contract. But believe me when I tell you this, that's the goal. The goal is to win the ACC. The goal is to get into the college football playoff. And the goal is for Bill Belichick at the end of the day to be holding up that trophy. That is what he is there to do. Well, I think you are already starting to see some of the stuff that Bill is trying to do permeate through college football. Because let's back up here for a second, right? Because let's really pull the curtain back. This was first tried, poorly I might add. This was first tried by Arizona State University with Herm Edwards' new leadership model. They wanted to bring the pro model to college and set up this type of structure. They didn't have the right people. I don't think they executed it very well, but they wanted to do this. So this is not new. And what Bill is proposing, the structure of a general manager, the structure of having somebody handle the NIL and the recruiting stuff, and then have the coaches coaching and have that separation a little bit, but also the collaboration, basically having it be modeled after a pro program is nothing new, right? Teams are doing this to a certain extent. I've mentioned the example here before. Stanford just hired Andrew Luck to be the general manager of their football program. You're going to see other teams do this. I said this last week when this story came out, that programs are going to go this way anyway. Now, here's the other thing. All of these universities that have a ton of money, they're already investing in top-of-the-line nutritionists, top-of-the-line trainers, top-of-the-line coaches. They are spending money and investing in their program the way an NFL organization would. So he's not completely reinventing the wheel. He's not completely coming in and doing something that is totally different from the rest of college football. He's doing a lot of the same stuff where the game is probably going. Now, is he going to hire the right people? That's the question mark. Lombardi is somebody he worked with in the past. He's friends with Lombardi. That's part of the reason why he brought Lombardi on board. It's somebody that he knows. There's a relationship there. They've worked together in the past. They've worked together well in the past. And so he probably wants somebody that he feels comfortable with in that role. Same thing with the coaches that they bring in. This is all going to come down to what it looks like on the field. And Bill Belichick is known at the pro level, defensive-minded head coach. He was a defensive coordinator. His offenses got stale when they weren't run by Tom Brady. Can he adapt to the way college football is played? That's the million-dollar question, or in this case, the $30 million question. Can Bill Belichick hire an offensive coach, bring in the right players, and run a system that will work in college football? I have enough examples of these types of jumps happening where a coach was in the pros, they go to college, and it failed. I have enough examples of this. I have enough of a sample size to say that this normally doesn't work. This normally isn't something that at the end we go, wow, what a great decision they made here. So if you're asking me my gut, I think it's going to be a beautiful disaster. I do not think they're going to hold up a championship at the end of the day. Do I think there's a chance in one season they might be able to win enough games to win the ACC or get an at-large bid and get into the college football playoff? Yeah, I think that's possible. You got 12 teams. There's a chance that over the course of the 3 years that this expands even further and they change it and it just completely upends to where they can sneak in a given season. Yes, that's possible. But, and this is not taking anything away from Bill Belichick, the coach. I don't know how well his gimmick is going to play in college. Right? Is he going to go back to being the cutoff hoodie, say nothing at the podium guy, or is he going to try to blend that with what we've seen from him in the media? I think it would be extremely beneficial to him to blend the two. He doesn't have to give everything away at the podium, but I think being a little bit more friendly, being a little bit more approachable and outgoing at the podium, I think goes a long way. Here's why. I think that stiffness that he has at the podium isn't going to earn him any favors in the college ranks, not only with the players, but with the people in the building, with the media, with everybody around the program. So I think him showing some humility in the sense of maybe being a little bit more human and less robotic the way he is when he's on Pat McAfee, when he is on the Manning cast. If he brings a little bit of that, he doesn't have to be, I mean, if he was the version that we see of him on TV, I think it'd be great, but I think he is going to try to scale it back a little bit. If he's a blend between the two, I think that will curry him favor while this is built up, because no matter who you are, Bill Belichick, you could be Nick Saban. It doesn't matter who you are. It takes time. Building a college program takes time. They're going to hit the transfer portal hard. they're going to try to bring in players to try to win immediately. They're going to evaluate the existing roster. I'm sure Bill has already done that, but it is a large undertaking for Bill here to try to turn this program around in quick order. And so I'm shocked. I'm stunned that this is happening. I didn't think it was going to happen. You could read the tea leaves that by him making this decision, he clearly felt that the NFL was not a viable path, at least right now. And the story that I'm reading on ESPN.com certainly gives away that indication. And so this is the decision that he made. And now he is going to, I'll tell you this. I am never going to criticize Bill Belichick for a lack of work ethic. He is going to work harder than anybody else to try to make this work. I just don't know if this will work. I just don't know if Bill Belichick's style will work. He will have to adapt his style. Can he do that? Easier said than done when you're 72 years old, you have a bunch of Super Bowl trophies, and you've been doing it one way your whole life. Hard to change who you are, and I think he's going to have to be a little different. I think he's going to have to change some of the ways that he coaches. And so put me in the camp. I was already wrong on this once before, but put me in the camp that I think this is going to be a beautiful disaster. I do not think this is going to go the way people in North Carolina think it's going to go, the way Bill thinks. I just don't think the results are going to be there. Coming up on the other side, the winter meetings have come and gone. And the Diamondbacks are still looking to get on the board. Is that a problem? We'll get into it next here on the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060. Can I vent for a second, Producer Corey? Can I? We take this job very seriously, despite it being unserious in nature, okay? We talking to a microphone for 2 hours. There are a lot more important things going on in the world, a lot more important jobs than me spouting off sports takes for 2 hours. It's fun. We have a blast doing it. I hope the listeners are enjoying the program, but we do not take ourselves too seriously. We understand what the job description is. That being said, we carry ourselves with some professionalism around here. We try to, at least. I try to hold a standard around here. And I got a lot of people in my life that know what I do for a living. They know when the show's on. They know what it entails. They are watching. They see I'm in the middle of something. Yet the other 22 hours of the day, when they can get in contact with me about something, when they can be like, hey, we've got this going on this weekend. Are you around? Or, hey, can you pick up milk on the way home? All that stuff. This 2-hour block is where everybody decides, you know what I want to do right now? Let's bother Chris. That's why we named the show The Lunch Break. But again, I don't want to call any names, and I don't think the person who I'm referring to is listening right now because I know what she's doing. But, I mean, what are we doing here? I'm doing a show. You see, most of the time you're watching, you see what I'm doing, and yet you're texting me, asking me questions about something that's going on. I'm a little busy, okay? Again, professionalism. We try to hold ourselves to a very high standard here. We are accountable. I can't answer a text message about what's going on later in the day during the 2-hour block. It's unbelievable. My phone goes off. I have phone calls. I got people calling me during the show. It's like, you know what I'm doing. I make it very clear, 11 to 1. 11 to 1, do not contact me. I am unreachable, out of office. I cannot answer the phone. Or if I do, you're going to be on the air. And we're not playing that game. So sorry, I needed to vent because it's every day. Something happens every single day where I get a text message during these 2 hours about something important. Right, I get here, 8:15 in the morning. I start putting together the show. Crickets. Nobody bothers me. Nothing. 11 o'clock, microphone turns red. Everybody wants to talk to me. I don't know if everybody wants to talk to the Arizona Diamondbacks right now. They left the winter meetings not putting a deal on the board yet. They still are in search of a first base solution. They are still in search of a DH, outfield, potential starting pitching depth. I think they need to add a reliever. We can debate what the various needs of this team are, but there are needs. They have offensive firepower to replace. Christian Walker and Jock Peterson are currently not on the 2025 roster, not members of the 2025 lineup. That production, which, by the way, was the best in baseball, led the National League in runs per game, one of the best offensive groups in the league last year, led the league in average and OPS. They were fantastic. 5th in the league in home runs. They were a prolific offensive group last year. Part of the reason why they were able to hang in it late, despite all the starting pitching problems they had last year. Eduardo Rodriguez not starting the year. Jordan Montgomery not pitching very well. Zach Gallen missing some time. Merrill Kelly going down early in the season. They were able to weather that storm. Why? Because their offense was so good. That's why Mike Hazen talks about needing to replace, needing to put back together this offense. They are losing a lot of firepower. Yet as we sit here, December 12th, they haven't put a move on the board yet. They haven't put a big name on this team. They haven't tried to fill one of these needs. I shouldn't say they haven't tried. They're probably having conversations, but we haven't seen them sign somebody to fill one of these needs. Is that a problem? Is it a problem that we sit here post-winter meetings and the Diamondbacks haven't made a move? Is that an issue? Normally, the inactivity up until this point would put me in a position to raise the alarm, sound the bell, that, yeah, this team needs to do more. But I asked this question to all of you. What have they missed out on so far? Were they going to be in the Max Fried business? Were the Diamondbacks going to sit down with Juan Soto and offer him $765 million? Did Willy Adames make sense at $180+ million? I don't think any of us think that's the area of the department store that the Diamondbacks are going to be shopping in this offseason. Scott Boras uses this analogy pretty regularly. He talks about Some teams shop in the frozen food department. They get the frozen produce, they get the frozen meat, and then there are the other teams that they get the fresh cuts of meat. They get the fresh organic produce, right? He uses that analogy all the time. Diamondbacks weren't signing Juan Soto. Diamondbacks weren't signing Max Fried. The Corbin Burns sweepstakes isn't going to involve the Diamondbacks. So I ask, what name have the Diamondbacks missed out on? You want to maybe say Tyler O'Neill? I know that's somebody that I've campaigned for here on this show. Fine. But one name in a vast sea of names available this offseason, they haven't missed on anybody yet. The first baseman market, nobody's come off the board. Christian Walker is still out there. Pete Alonso's market isn't developing the way that he originally thought it was going to. The DH market, has anybody really come off the board there? Gary Sanchez signed with the Baltimore Orioles, but more to be a backup catcher and a DH. But on Fangraphs, these are all the DHs that are available. Jock Peterson, Jesse Winker, Justin Turner, Donovan Solano, J.D. Martinez, Andrew McCutchen. Now, we can debate whether or not those names make sense, but all of those names are available. The first base market, Carlos Santana, Christian Walker, Pete Alonso, Goldie, Mark Canha, all those names still available. Want to talk about outfielders? Anthony Santander still out there. Jock Peterson still out there. Oscar Hernandez still unsigned. Jurickson Profar. Juan Soto signed. Tyler O'Neill signed. That's it. And so I can understand the frustration because it is clear to me, as I'm sure it is clear to you, it's clear to the team, they have work to do. You got to let the offseason play out, though. If we get to the end of January, we get to February, pitchers and catchers are starting to report, spring training games are starting to happen, and we've got a team that hasn't filled any of these holes, that is still searching, and the market has passed them by. Christian Walker went someplace else, Pete Alonso someplace else. The backup options, Goldie signed somewhere. If all of the options are off the table and they haven't filled the needs correctly, then we should have a conversation about, they haven't done the necessary steps. They should have hit the market earlier. But the market is really slow right now. There's a lot of focus on pitching after the Garrett Crochet trade. It's really just Corbin Burns left at the top. The Roki Sasaki sweepstakes are going to take a little bit. The Diamondbacks could very much well be in that. We know. We talked about it originally when the rumors were out there that he was going to get posted, that the Diamondbacks were one of the teams that have extensively scouted him, and this is not a money play, so it puts them in play here. And we know West Coast teams have been favorable destinations for players to come out of Japan, and so that puts the Diamondbacks at a unique advantage. And so we thought that's going to be a slow-moving market. Expect that to start to materialize a little bit after Christmas. So there's patience that's needed there, and I think a lot of people are focusing on starting pitching. The Mariners are getting phone calls about Luis Castillo. The Padres are fielding phone calls for Dylan Cease. I'm sure the Diamondbacks are taking calls on Zach Allen. The Astros and Framber Valdez. I mean, the pitching market seems to be where the most activity and the most focus is right now. The hitting market is slow. Yesterday we mentioned Plan B options for this team if Christian Walker signs someplace else. And we mentioned Paul Goldschmidt. That tier of option, nobody is signed from that tier yet. Nobody is off the board. Justin Turner, Paul Goldschmidt, Mark Canha, a reunion with Josh Bell, Miguel Sano, Yuli Gurriel. I mean, everybody. There is not a single first baseman that has signed yet this offseason. We know that's one of the areas that this team is trying to address. And the reliever market, which is something that I've been campaigning for here on this show because I think they need one extra high-leverage arm. They have Justin Martinez. They have A.J. Puck. They have two really good back-end relievers. I think their 8th and 9th innings are locked down with those two guys. I think you'd like to add one more to form a trio for 7, 8, and 9. What those roles are can be defined, and maybe they can be a morphing situation as the season progresses. I think you'd like to get people in defined roles. I think Justin Martinez is best suited to be the closer of this team, A.J. Puck to be the setup man in the 8th, so you really are looking for a 7th inning guy. Carlos Estevez is out there. Jose Leclerc is out there. David Robinson is out there. Kirby Yates is out there. Jeff Hoffman is out there. And you have all of these names out there. All of them. Yes. Has Aroldis Chapman come off the board? Has Blake Trinan come off the board? Absolutely. But look at some of the other contracts that have been given out. Aaron Bummer got $13 million from the Braves. Jacob Webb yesterday got $1.25 million from the Rangers. TJ McFarland signed a $1.8 million deal, and these are low-end bargain bin options. There's a ton of those guys out there. So there is still shopping that can be done. So I understand you want your team to get the headlines the way the White Sox and Red Sox did yesterday with the Garrett Crochet trade, the way the Giants will today with Willy Adames' press conference. Juan Soto's press conference is today for the Mets. You want that big marquee name. And it's not going to be as big as those guys, but it's going to be the big piece of this offseason. You're waiting for that news because you want to see how the puzzle was put together. Because you look at the team right now and you look at the way their lineup is constructed and you say, if this team has some holes, if this team wants to return to form, they missed the playoffs off of a tiebreaker last year. They had a team with the best OBP, the most runs scored, fifth in home runs, second in OPS, second in average. They won 89 games, almost won 90 games a year ago. I know they missed the playoffs. This was almost a 90-win baseball team with the rotation in flux as it was for as long as it was last season. So you can get really excited about this team in a hurry after an 89-win season if they fill a couple of these holes, if they get a bench piece, if they do the little things to make this team better. So we're waiting, and I understand the excitement. I understand the anticipation, but they haven't missed out on anybody that was a realistic target. So it sucks to sit here and not have moves to break down, and we're just discussing hypotheticals, but I would much rather this than come in here and talk about how did the Diamondbacks miss on blank player. That would be disappointing. Coming up on the other side, well, they are now on the wish list. Still not happening. That's next on the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Yeah, I'm going to be the bad guy today. Welcome back to the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. We got you until 1 o'clock here today. 480-864-1060 is the phone number for you to join the conversation here as we wrap up hour number one of the program. I am going to be the bad guy because yesterday we learned that Jimmy Butler is adding a team to his wish list. He originally had the Mavs, the Rockets, and the Warriors on his wish list of teams that he would like to go to if he was traded out of Miami. Well, yesterday, he added a team to that list, and that team was your Phoenix Suns. So now the list reads the Mavs, the Rockets, the Warriors, the Suns. I find it interesting that the wish list is all Western Conference teams, nobody in the East that he wants to play for. Says a lot about how he probably knows that the Heat will not oblige this request if he wants to go to an Eastern Conference team. Now, his agent has denied this claim in language I can't use on the radio. He has called it, I think I can say this. I think I can say BS. I think we're okay. I think we're okay. I think we're fine. That's what he said. He said it's a bunch of baloney. He said it's a bunch of baloney. Now, it doesn't really feel like it's a bunch of baloney. Feels like it's very real. So let's do this again. We did it yesterday before they were even linked as a team because everybody, thought, oh, this would be a great idea for the Phoenix Suns. Okay, I played along yesterday. We had some fun. Now we added the Suns to the list. Now we got to really have the conversation. And there's a great story on Yahoo Sports by Kevin O'Connor, their NBA senior analyst. And he goes through all 4 teams and what the likelihood is that these teams would land on the Phoenix Suns, or that they would land Jimmy Butler. And the Phoenix Suns, his blurb, this is the problem. I want everybody do me a favor right now. I don't know if you're listening in your car. I don't know if you're listening at your desk. Maybe you got the app, you're at the gym with the earbuds in. I don't know what you're doing. But whatever you're doing, get nice and close. Turn that dial up just a little bit. Turn the volume up so you can really hear this loud and clear, because this is why this is not happening. This is from the story. This makes some sense because Bradley Beal openly admitted the Heat were his preferred trade destination prior to landing in Phoenix. So he could be willing to waive his no-trade clause. But because of salary cap complexities due to the apron, either Josh Richardson would also need to be sent from Miami to Phoenix, or a third team would be required for any Butler for Beal deal to work. Did you hear that part? There's complications to the Phoenix Suns trying to trade for Jimmy Butler. Let's for a second, let's just play a game. The Phoenix Suns want to send Bradley Beal to Miami, and they want Jimmy Butler back in return. They're on board. They love this. We can get rid of Bradley Beal's money. We can just absolve ourselves of this no trade clause shenanigans. We can just move on. We're good. And we get Jimmy Butler back. We can add him to our team. We think this is the best move for the Phoenix Suns. You now have 2 problems to sort through. You have to get you have to get Bradley Beal to agree to waive his no trade clause so that you can get Jimmy Butler. And then you also need to make it work within the salary cap. And you saw in the story, you heard in the story, they'd have to add in another player. They might need to add a third team in. And once the deal gets more complex, and once the deal has more teams or more hurdles involved, that makes the deal much more likelier to fall through. And it means it's much more likelier that the Miami Heat are going to deal with the team that can make this simple, can make it as painless as possible, and they can get a deal done sooner rather than later. I don't know if the Wizards would be a nice destination for Jimmy Butler for a lot of reasons. But the Rockets, the Warriors, the Mavs, those are all teams that can cleanly do this. You don't need a third team. The Rockets, they have a ton of space, a ton of young players, a ton of draft picks for them to do this. The Warriors, they can trade Andrew Wiggins in this deal to make the money work. They have the young players to make it work. And they've got picks. And so for all 3 of those teams that are in the Western Conference, so there's no favoritism there of a Western Conference team versus an Eastern Conference team. All 4 of these teams that we're discussing are Western Conference opponents. They can make the deal much more easily than the Phoenix Suns can. And that's my North Star when it comes to this. It's nice to think about it. It's nice to dream of what this team would look like with Jimmy Butler instead of Bradley Beal, and we can debate whether or not that makes the team better. It probably does. I think it would be an upgrade to go from Beal to Butler. But the other point that Kevin points out in the story is, why would Miami take on Beal? Because he's got 3 years, $161 million left on his contract. Do they want to sign up for that? Is that something that they want to have to deal with for the next 3 seasons. So it just doesn't feel like the Suns are even remotely considered one of the teams that will land Jimmy Butler. I get why Suns fans want it. I get why you would clamor for it. I very much understand why today you are firing up the NBA trade machine and you're trying to figure out a way to make this deal work, adding in whatever third team you need, and you're going to send a screenshot to me, you're going to post it on Twitter, you're going to do the work. I got you. I'm there. I understand. Just doesn't make sense. The Suns will always come up short in a deal because they are the team that has the most hurdles to overcome. They are the team that has the most limitations against them when it comes to making a move. They have all of the salary cap limitations of being a second apron team. We spent all summer talking about all the things that we didn't think they were going to be able to do. And they shocked us all by being able to acquire the depth pieces that this team needed because they got creative. They got players to buy in. They were able to sell what this team could be. Now, when you're making a deal in season, there's not a lot of levers you can pull. There's not a lot of options. And I don't know if there are a ton of avenues outside of Jimmy Butler that would make sense for the Suns to make them better that are achievable. And I don't even think this is achievable. So I understand that Jimmy Butler added the Suns to his wish list. And I've seen the tweets. Ben Garcia, a good friend, co-host of the Locked On Suns podcast, I saw him point this out, that the way the NBA works, if Jimmy Butler wants to go to the Phoenix Suns, he will end up on the Phoenix Suns. I do not think it is that simple. I do not think in this situation it is that easy. Because there are limitations on what the Suns can be able to do. And so he can want the Phoenix Suns, but if the Phoenix Suns can't make it happen, this isn't a scenario where the Phoenix Suns are just sitting there and they have all the cap space in the world, they have all the assets in the world, and Jimmy Butler, by saying that he wants to play for the Phoenix Suns, it limits what Miami's going to be able to get in a return because Jimmy Butler can throw a fit, say he doesn't want to go to another team, can threaten all this stuff. Jimmy Butler can say that he wants to go to the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns can't meet the price tag. They can't do anything. They don't have the assets. They'd have to get creative. They have to get Bradley Beal to waive his no-trade clause. So this is not as cut and dry as superstar wants out, has picked destination, and it happens. There's more complexities to this. There are more roadblocks to this. There are more hurdles to this on the Suns side. Jimmy Butler can want the Phoenix Suns, and Phoenix Suns can want Jimmy Butler. There's still so much red tape to cut through in order to make that happen. So because of that, I just think it's more likely that the Heat match up with the Rockets, the Mavs, the Warriors, another team that wants to enter this fray that maybe Jimmy Butler puts on his wish list. And so, yes, it is notable that Jimmy Butler said, I would like to play for the Phoenix Suns. They are one of the 4 teams I would like to end up being on. That's notable. That does at least put the Suns in the mix if they want to make this happen. There are still way too many hurdles for them to clear. Because in this story, all these other teams, there's no conversation about needing to add a third team or needing to get Bradley Beal to waive his no-trade. Nobody else has that problem. Nobody else has to go to a player and ask them to waive a no-trade clause. Nobody has to call up a third team in addition to getting a player to waive his no-trade clause, to making the money work, to making the math work. None of the other 3 teams involved in this have to do that. And so unfortunately, when the Suns decided to do this, and they decided to stay as a second apron team, and they made the moves that they made in the summer, they very much limited their capabilities here. Do I think it's impossible? No. It's not impossible for them to end up with Jimmy Butler. I just think the likelihood that we get there, the likelihood that Bradley Beal waives his no-trade clause, that they can find the right dance partner and take the right contracts back and get the third team if they need to get the third team to make all of this happen, I just think is too big of a bridge to cross. Nothing against Jimmy Butler, the player. I think he would be an upgrade over Bradley Beal. Now, Jimmy Butler's availability is almost as in question as Bradley Beal's, but that's a separate conversation. I just think talent-wise, it would be an upgrade. But I just don't see it happening. And I don't mean to throw cold water on it, but I did it yesterday. I'm going to do it again today because I just think it's too difficult. The Suns have locked themselves into what this is. This group, we said it yesterday, is either going to do what they're supposed to do or we're going to get to a place where we discuss blowing it up. That's it. There is no in between. There is no pathway where they can kind of just tweak it on the margins and kind of retool it on the fly. No, it's either going to be the highest of highs or it's going to crash and burn. And then at that point, we have a Kevin Durant conversation. We have a Devin Booker conversation. We go through all of those different permutations on them potentially moving on. But this, I get it. I kind of like it. But I got to be the realist. I have to be the person that is honest and truthful with you, the listener. And I'm here to tell you, I just don't see it happening. I just don't think it's likely. What's the phrase in life? Normally, the most likely answer is the truthful answer. Right. I think that's Occam's razor, right? I think I used that phrase correctly. The most likely option with this is that the Phoenix Suns aren't getting Jimmy Butler because they're the team that's the most difficult to deal with in all of this. They're the team that has the most different, like, oh, okay, we've agreed to a trade. All right, hold on. Hey, Brad, you going to waive your no trade clause? No? Oh, okay. Oh, you are? Okay, now we got to get a third team. Okay, hey, Brooklyn. See, it's too difficult. It's too difficult. Hour number 1 of the show in the books. Hour number 2. Yeah, they're still mathematically alive. So what's the path? Hour number 2 of the program next. The lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Welcome back in hour number 2 of the program. The lunch break. Chris Schubert here with you. KDUS AM 1060, 480-864-1060 is the phone number for you to join us. I'll be honest with you, producer Corey, hasn't felt like a Thursday today. Normally, the Thursday show has sort of a appetizer feel to it for what is a huge Football Friday show. I haven't felt that at all today. I don't know what it is. It's not like we had a day off. It's not like we had our normal, holiday time of year. You have a just random day off in the middle of the week. No, we've been here every day. So we've been here. This is day 4 of the week. Doesn't feel like a Thursday. Now, if you ask me what day it feels like, I don't have an answer for that either because it doesn't feel like a Thursday. I don't know what day it feels like. Okay. You know what my studio looks like. I can't tell you what it looks like outside. So I've got the blinds down so that the camera doesn't have a huge backlight behind it. So I can't see what it looks like outside. It doesn't look good. The sun's peeking out. So I was going to ask if it was going to rain. No rain. It's unfortunate. So it's not it is a Thursday. It doesn't feel like a Thursday. Feels like a Tuesday? I mean, you and I are working together, so it has to be a day, either Tuesday or Thursday. If it's not a Thursday, so it's probably a Tuesday. But it doesn't feel like a Thursday. No, tomorrow doesn't feel like it's supposed to be Friday. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm very excited about that. I'm very excited that the week will be over because we have a huge Football Friday show, as we always do, planned. I got picks to make. We got games to go through. We got a Cardinals game to break down. We got a lot of fun in store, but it just doesn't feel like that's the show that I need to prep for tomorrow. It just doesn't feel like it. But we welcome you into hour number 2 on this Thursday edition of the show. Maybe it feels like a Thursday for all of you out there. It doesn't feel like a Thursday here. Very quick aside, because I'm very excited about this today. After the show today, and after I get done here in the office, I have my daughter's playing playoff softball. So her school team has made the postseason. We are playing today. Now you know where I live. So you know the journey that could normally be. They are playing Papago. So this is perfect for me. It's right around the corner. It's 2 minutes away. So when I got the email earlier in the week, like, hey, this is when the game is, I'm like, 5 o'clock. The game's at 5 o'clock. I'm like, 5 o'clock. It's tough, 45 minutes, traffic. I just don't know. And then when I saw where the game was, I was like, oh, this is perfect. I might even walk. Especially if it's as nice out as you say it is. No rain, the sun's starting to come out. So I'm very excited about that here later today. So got to get this show done with so we can full steam ahead on the playoffs, and we will see if we win our first round matchup here today to continue the journey. Now, listen, I am not the coach. I am a spectator. I just hang out. But I'm very excited about that later on today. They are still mathematically alive. Speaking of the playoffs, the Cardinals still mathematically alive. I saw a story today that went through all of the different permutations, went all of the different scenarios that needed to play out in just the NFC West, and why even at 6-7, everybody is still alive, and how Seattle has the best path because they control their own fate. They are ahead of the Los Angeles Rams. If they win out, they'll be in. And then there was a paragraph about the Arizona Cardinals. So I thought, in the interest of fairness, in the interest of transparency, if we're going to say that we think the Cardinals are done here on the show, yet they have an 8.5% chance, what does that mathematical possibility look like? So let's play it out. So the Cardinals can't tie with Seattle. That's issue number 1. They can't tie with Seattle outright. Now, if they tie with Seattle and the Rams, then that opens up some possibilities. So pathway number 1 here, and this is the most important thing. This is why it's an uphill battle. It's why it's 8.5%. There are 4 games remaining for both teams. The Cardinals have to beat the Seahawks by a game. They cannot tie. A tie, because the Seahawks beat them twice, will eliminate them from the playoffs, at least from winning the division. Now, who knows if there's a wild card spot still up for grabs, but winning the division, they cannot win the division if they are tied head-to-head. The only way they're not eliminated with a tie with Seattle is if the Rams are also tied and clinch a head-to-head sweep over the Seahawks with a Week 18 win. The Cardinals can clinch the head-to-head tiebreakers over the Rams and 49ers. Those are the last 2 games of the season. So winning those games would basically give the Cardinals the edge there. But they need help. The Seahawks play the Packers and Vikings. That's the pathway for the Cardinals to open up some ground. But the Cardinals can really only afford one more loss. If they lose 2 more, that would clinch a losing record. And then the Seahawks would have to go 0-4, and then some other stuff would have to happen in order for them to pass. Now, there was a story written about the chaos outcome of all 4 teams tied. Now, there's a chance that all 4 teams tie with an 8-9 record. That would be the Seahawks losing out and then the Rams only winning the game against Seattle. And that would mean that the 49ers and Cardinals would beat the Rams in weeks 15 and 17. And so it would come down to those 2 teams. If the Cardinals win in Week 18 to match the rest of the division at 8 wins, then Arizona wins the division by head-to-head tiebreakers by having swept San Francisco and LA. Now, there is a path for all the teams to be 9-8 and the Cardinals win the NFC. There's a point that I'm going to get to here after reading all of this. Just let me land the plane and then we'll get there. If the Cardinals go 9-8, so right now they're 6-7. So that would mean going 3-1 the rest of the way, which feels extremely plausible. 2 very winnable games coming up against the Patriots and the Panthers, and then you win one of the 2 divisional games. So 9-8's on the table. The Cardinals, at 9-8 to win the NFC West, they have to defeat the Rams and the 49ers, and then their win has to be with either the Patriots or the Panthers. And then this is how they win the division. The 49ers win every game besides the Cardinals, and the Rams beat the Jets and Seahawks, but lose to the 49ers and Cardinals, and the Seahawks only win 1 game between the Packers, Vikings, and Bears. The point that I am attempting to make by reading all of these scenarios to you and seeing how unlikely it is this is why we said on Monday the loss to the Seahawks ends the season for the Cardinals. Look at what that... You need a degree in calculus to understand what I just read to you. Because what I just read to you about the Cardinals winning the division with everybody being 9-8, it's who cares? Do you see how many things had to have to happen in order for that to for us to even entertain that conversation? Oh, the Cardinals have to defeat the Rams and the 49ers and then win 1 against the Patriots or the Panthers, and then the 49ers win every game but the Cardinals, and then the Rams also defeat these 2 opponents but lose to... That's the position that the Cardinals have put themselves in. They can't lose more than 1 more game the rest of the way for this even to be a remote possibility. It is why it is so frustrating that this team lost the last 3 games the way that they did. They win 1 of those 3 games, just 1. And instead of being an 0-3 team since the bye, they're a 1-2 team since the bye. It's a totally different conversation. They're 7-6. They would then hold the last wild card spot over the Rams because they would have beaten them already head-to-head. This segment wouldn't be happening. This show would have a different feel to it. We wouldn't be discussing a team that has completely fallen off the face of the earth. We would not be talking about a team that needs all of this stuff to go right to win the division at 9-8, needs to outdo the Seahawks by 3 games over the final 4 of the regular season in order to win the division. All of that wouldn't matter if this team won 1 game since the bye week. 1. Hold on against Minnesota. Play better in Seattle. Don't throw a pick 6. Don't throw 2 first-quarter interceptions to give the game away against Seattle. You change 1 of those results since the bye week. This is a totally different conversation. I'm not reading from this article that points out all of the possible pathways in the NFC West. Now, yes, the Cardinals are still mathematically alive. There's still a wild card spot that they are 1 game back of. But this team has to play differently than they did the last 4 weeks or last 3 weeks in order for us to entertain those possibilities. But seeing it written down like this, seeing it laid out of what the uphill battle this team is facing, just further emphasizes the frustration that all of us should have about this team the last 3 weeks. All they had to do was win 1. 1 game changes every little bit of this math. It changes everything about the tone of this game against the Patriots. Instead of us wondering if this is an audition for the future, us wondering if this is a 4-game sample size to keep people off the hot seat going into next year, we would continue, despite it being a bumpy road, be talking about a team in the playoffs. Now, yes, mathematically still possible. That's why we're doing the segment, but extremely unlikely. This is a good little poll question here today. What's more likely, the Cardinals make the playoffs or the Suns trade for Jimmy Butler? That's a fun little poll question for you today. The odds are very close. In fact, I might put that on the KDUSAM 1060 Twitter account during the break. Which is more likely, the Cardinals make the playoffs or the Suns trade for Jimmy Butler? I think I would say the Cardinals making the playoffs because I think they have more control in the matter. They need other teams to do stuff, but in the trade scenario, you need the Heat to want to trade Jimmy Butler, and it just feels like a lot more hurdles to clear there. So I think I would pick the Cardinals to make the playoffs. But which is more likely, the Cardinals to make the playoffs or for the Suns to trade for Jimmy Butler? That shows you the difference that this stretch since the bye has made for the Cardinals. Win one of those games, and we're not even having that conversation. Instead, that's where we're at here today on the program. Coming up on the other side, you know what? I was just wondering when the next time we were going to have this conversation was. A college football super league conversation. Yeah, it's back. We'll do it next. The lunch break, KDUSAM 1060. Speaking of the Twitter account, KDUSAM 1060, the lunch break poll question is up there. That's what I did during the break. Of the two remote outcomes, which one is more likely? The Suns to trade for Jimmy Butler or the Cardinals to make the playoffs? So cast your vote, KDUSAM 1060 on Twitter. Maybe we'll update that as part of the leftovers to close the show. I submitted my vote. I said the Cardinals to make the playoffs. So we will keep an eye on that, and we'll update you on the results here to close the show. I gave it a full 24 hours. I said, you know what? Until tomorrow's show, basically, you have at it, everybody. I'm not trying to, limit how long. The max you can really do is a day, so we'll just let everybody have 24 hours to think about it. There are people who podcast the show, too. So there are people that won't know because they're not listening right now. They go back and podcast the show. They can jump on board, and they can be a part of the poll question. We have to make sure we take care of the podcast listeners of the show as well, because they are people too. They are listeners of this show as well. It feels like we do this every so often. Feels like every couple of months a fresh version of this story emerges, and it feels like a topic of conversation among sports radio folks on a pretty regular basis, so we will have it here today on the show. Since the emergence of NIL and since the gobbling up of teams that the SEC and the Big Ten have made, and since it was attempted in soccer and failed, there has been this dream idea floated out of a college football super league where everybody is just under one umbrella and the TV deals are under that umbrella, and the playoffs are different, and the divisions are different. There's no SEC. There's no Big Ten. Everybody's part of the same league, kind of the way the NFL works. Well, we got our new version of it. Hot off the presses, everybody. A brand new version of this. It is called the College Student Football League, CSFL. In this proposal, a 24-team playoff where there's no college football playoff committee, there's no rankings, there's no analysis of strength of schedule or strength of record or what, none of that. The CFL, or the CSFL, College Student Football League, the story's in The Athletic. It would divide the FBS into two tiers. Tier 1, the 72 Power 12 schools, roughly the Power 5, and then 64 school group of 8. So a Power 12, a group of 8. Those 64 schools in the group of 8 is the current group of 5. The Power 12 would be divided into a dozen, so 12, 6-team divisions that would be grouped by their geographical locations. No conference championship games. You win your division, you make the playoff, and then there are 10 wild card teams and 2 play-up teams, meaning 2 teams that come from the group of 8. This year it would have been Army and Boise State. The schedules for these schools would be determined based on how they finished the prior season. So this year, the college football playoff bracket, Oregon was the 1 seed, Georgia the 2 seed, Boise State the 3 seed, ASU the 4 seed, right? Those are your 4 seeds. In the CSFL bracket, hypothetical for 2024, there would be 8 teams that would get first-round byes. Those teams would have been Oregon, Notre Dame, Texas, Penn State, Indiana, Ohio State, Georgia, and ASU, because ASU would have won their division, which was the Southwest Division. That was Arizona, Arizona State, Cal, Stanford, UCLA, and USC. That would have been the division that ASU would have been in, and based on their record, that's how this would have worked. The 4 reasons for putting these conferences together, these divisions together the way that they did: geographic proximity, historic rivalries, in-state rivalries, and then the 100-year look back is, I'm looking at a slide from this presentation, frequency of these matchups. And so it's broken up into 12 teams, and look, you still have a lot of the conference tie-ins still the same, right? The Mid-South Conference is Alabama, Auburn, Kentucky, Louisville, Tennessee, and Vanderbilt. So Louisville's in there, but it's a bunch of SEC schools. You've got the Carolinas division, which is Clemson, Duke, NC State, North Carolina, South Carolina, Wake Forest. So you sneak an SEC school in there, but basically everybody in the ACC. The Midwest, Iowa, Iowa State, Minnesota, Nebraska, Ohio State, Wisconsin. And you can see there, mostly Big Ten teams. You got Iowa State in there as well. So you can see that most of the stuff stays the same. And so this idea being proposed by a group, the College Sports Tomorrow group, is trying to remove a lot of the noise that comes out of the College Football Playoff Committee and comes into all of this. And so they want to get all the TV deals in-house. Now, the problem with this is you have all these TV deals that run into the 2030s. Now, the people in charge of this have said that this system probably you don't get to until 2032. So it's about 8 years down the road. The new college football playoff 6-year deal doesn't even begin until 2026. So again, 2032 is probably the roadmap. And what they would do here is they would then take all of these TV rights and they would sell it to all of the networks the same way the NFL does. And the NFL makes a lot of money. And this was their pitch. This group pitched it last week to a group of presidents and chancellors from the Big 12 and ACC. And the pitch, this was the quote from the story, quote, "You guys are going to need a lot more money to afford house settlement revenue sharing with athletes and benefits if the athletes eventually get classified as employees." Let's talk about this from a couple different angles. Firstly, I kind of push back on the idea of using the term Super League because as a soccer fan, I kind of recoil at what that term meant to soccer and what the reasons why that fell apart the way that it did, what people were afraid of over there. But it would be different here in college football, but I just hate the use of that term because of what it meant to somebody like myself who is a soccer fan. I don't know if college football will ultimately look like this. I don't know if this ultimately is the final version of college football and the way it will be set up. Here's what I do know. Here's what I do feel comfortable saying. The current system is not sustainable. The current way college sports works with these conferences and with the way the college football playoff is set up and the way that the money is about to change, it is unsustainable. The current model will not survive. It will not work. There's going to need to be some radical change. I don't know if this version is it. I kind of like it. I don't hate it. I like the division ASU finds themselves in. Win your division, you get a playoff berth. The same way the NFL works. I think that's great. You then take the next best teams based on wild card. And you're not just going to play all the teams in your division. You'll also rotate through other divisions to make up the rest of your schedule. And so, kind of like that. So ASU would play everybody in their division, it would seem, right? That's 5 games. It's a 12-game schedule. You got 7 other games to make up. And so those 7 other games can be a whole other division, or it can be other teams that finished in the similar spot as ASU did the year before. So you constantly are rotating who you're playing, but the schedule would be more robust. There would be no arguments about strength of schedule. And then you would have head-to-head tiebreakers if that would matter when it came to wild card. I kind of like this as an idea. I don't hate it. Do I think it's going to have staying power right now? No, probably not. But I like the forward thinking because that's what I think college football requires. The current model isn't going to work. The current model is going to see the SEC and the Big Ten all of a sudden show everybody else the Heisman and go off and do their own thing. I think that's coming at some point. So pooling everybody together, getting a absolute outrageous number for the college TV contract is the centerpiece of this. Because then that money, if you oversee it the way that this organization, College Football Tomorrow, wants to do, or College Sports Tomorrow wants to do, you then can pool all of that TV money together. You can then divvy that up equally among your 72 schools in the Power 12. You can do whatever you want with your 64 school group of 8. Maybe you want to divide it evenly across the board. And then you basically have a salary cap. So the way this would work, the 13-game season over 15 weeks, 5 division games, like we mentioned, then 8 non-division games, and the prior season's top 36 schools earned the 7th home game. Obviously, if you're going to play 13 games, you're going to play 6 at home, 7 on the road, or 7 at home, 6 on the road. So by being one of the top 36 schools, you would then get that 7th home game. I like it. I'm in. I think this is the kind of uniqueness. We are going to get to a place where college football is a sport. And what I mean by that is it's not got this veil of amateurism and colleges and scholarships and academics. That's going to go away if it hasn't already been smashed to pieces. And so you're going to have a salary cap. And I think this is your pathway to getting there. Everybody under the same umbrella, Everybody's sharing from the same pool. That pool can be evenly divvied out. And now you go back to the place of you got to recruit a kid. You've got salary money that you can divvy up, and you got to make sure you put together a competitive roster. To me, again, I know there are so many people that are sickened by what I am saying because they want college sports to go back the way that they were. That's not happening. So you have to evolve. You have to get with the times. I think this is a closer way to get everything under one umbrella and to be able to put more governors and guardrails on this so it's not completely out of control the way that it is right now. Coming up next, is Kyler Murray auditioning for his future on Sunday? That's next on the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060. Welcome back to the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060. You want to join the conversation? 480-864-1060 is the phone number. You can also join us on the YouTube side of things, KDUS AM 1060 on YouTube. You can watch the live video version of the show over there as well. The play of Kyler Murray over the last couple of weeks, since the bye, has sort of popped back up the conversation about, is he the future? Is he the franchise quarterback of this team? And after thinking that had been put to bed, after thinking that we were no longer going to have that conversation, that the Cardinals had found their guy, they were building around Kyler Murray, they got Marvin Harrison Jr., Paris Johnson, James Conner, they were building out an offense. They were ready to go. The offense was supposed to be the strength of this team this year. Statistically, they're a little bit better across the board than they were a year ago, but they haven't made that massive leap that I think people thought that they were going to take, myself included. And so despite thinking that had been put to bed and that we were not going to have that conversation, I think his play the last 3 weeks in games of heightened magnitude, it's opened the door again. It's just made it more possible to have that conversation. And I said in the tease before the break, is he auditioning for his future starting on Sunday? Have we completely opened the door again to where that is the lens in which we are viewing Kyler Murray? We're not viewing Kyler through the lens of, did they get the job done? Did they win the football game? What does it mean for their playoff odds? Have we taken a step backwards? Have we moved to a place of evaluating again whether or not he's the future? Well, Kyler Murray's contract is pretty clear in one aspect. He's going to be the quarterback of this team next year in 2025. There's dead cap implications. He gets money guaranteed for 2026 very, very quickly into the league. You're like 5 days in. It makes it basically impossible for the Suns to move on from him, or the Cardinals to move on from him before the end of his age 28 season, so at the end of 2025. Now, as the contract ages, it gets easier. There's less money that is dished out in future years. You still have to carry somewhat of a big hit, but there's a chunk in 2026, and then 2027, it basically becomes a rounding error to move on from him. So while his play recently has thrusted us back into this conversation, it's thrusted us back into the limelight, his future is not something he is fighting over these next 4 games. But he is fighting for something. There is something that is on the line, not just the playoffs and that 8.5% chance starting on Sunday. There is something on the line for Kyler Murray. Because how these 4 games finish and how he looks in these 4 games is going to set the table for the conversation that we're going to have all summer long. Let's say he plays well. Let's say they go 2-2, they go 3-1, they miss the playoffs. But he plays well. It doesn't look like it's looked the last 3 weeks. It looks like how this offense looked during the 4-game winning streak. It looks better. It doesn't end in a playoff berth. There's still some disappointment there, but he's not the reason why they're losing. He played well. The results were kind of there. Okay, season's over. Our offseason conversation, from the moment the season's over, our free agency preview, our discussion of draft, the summertime, it's going to be beef up the defense, add some complementary pieces to this offense, and then next year is the year that you take the massive step forward. But there's probably a playoff mandate in place that, listen, year 1 for Jonathan Gannon, a reset, an evaluation, set the foundation. Year 2, you flirted with it. You almost got there. It didn't end the way we wanted to, but we're going to continue the investment. Year 3, we got to see the playoffs. We got to see a team finish with a winning record, compete for a wild card spot, maybe compete for the division if the division is similar to the way that it is this year. You got to make the playoffs, right? That's the way the offseason goes. If this is a mild finish to the year, if this is just a normal finish to the year for the Arizona Cardinals. But what if it looks bad? What if he's a major reason why they finish 1-3 or 0-4? He commits silly turnovers like he did in the Seahawks games. They have fourth quarter collapses, and he has opportunities to go on game-winning drives and fall short. What if this is just a complete dumpster fire from the bye week all the way to the end where they win 1 or 2 games? Then I think our summer conversation is going to revert back to previous summer conversations where Kyler Murray is on the hot seat and his future is on the line. Not that they're going to, in 2025, seek out a replacement. They're not going to draft the replacement. They're not going to sign Sam Darnold. They're not going to trade for somebody. They will not do that this offseason. But we will have the conversation that going into the 2025 season, Kyler Murray is back on the hot seat. That he is once again going to have to prove that he is the guy that should get the keys to this franchise beyond next season. That's what's on the line starting on Sunday. That's what's on the line when they take on the Patriots, the Panthers, the two divisional games to end the season. Play well. We have a conversation of what tweaks need to be made for this team to make that big next jump next year. Play poorly. Continue this run of bad play since the bye week. An entire summer of is he the answer? Is he the franchise quarterback? That's what's on the line these next 4 games. There's a playoff spot still on the line. There's a chance to right all of the wrongs of the last couple of weeks if they close the year on a 4-game winning streak and they end the season 10-7. That'll probably get them in as the last wild card spot. That would erase everything. So there's a lot still on the line with this game on Sunday against the Patriots, leading into the Panthers and into the 2 divisional games. But putting the playoffs aside for a second, because I don't think making the playoffs or missing the playoffs should determine which path we go down, because he can play really well and they can win games here at the end of the season and still be on the outside looking in. That'll be disappointing. We will play the what-if game. What if they held on against Minnesota? What if they didn't lay an egg against Seattle both times? What if they played better against the Bills if they finished the job in the fourth quarter? All of those what-if games we would play. But if they finish the year 3-1, even 2-2, 4-0, whatever the case may be, if they aren't a complete dumpster fire at the end of the year, I don't think we will have the conversation in the offseason. I just don't. Maybe something will change my mind. But I think if they go 2-2 or better, his play is going to dictate, okay, that was just a blip. They still believe in him. There's still reason to believe in him. They're going to continue to put the pieces around him. They're going to beef up this defense so that it's not all on his shoulders. They're going to play more complementary, complete football, team football. I can see us having that conversation. But with the way they've played the last 3 weeks, I can also see us having the flip side of that conversation, where we're asking how a team only won 1 game after the bye week. And if that's the case, how does it not fall at the feet of not only the head coach, but at the quarterback, who crumbled under the pressure of meaningful December football, who would continue their poor run of play in November and December? We shared his statistics, I think it was last week, of how Kyler has played in November and December, and that he could shed a narrative starting on Sunday against Seattle. Well, that narrative still exists. You win only 1 game, 2 games after the bye. You go 2-5, 1-6 down the stretch. There has to be some level of accountability. You can't just finish the year 1-6 or 2-5 and miss the playoffs and completely fall apart and not have major questions get asked. It's just a part of the process. We can't watch a team go 1-5 after the bye, or 1-6 after the bye, 2-5 after the bye, and say, just some poor luck. That they're going in the right direction. They're trending in the right direction. No, they wouldn't be trending in the right direction at that point. They would be trending backwards. There would be a larger stretch of them being a bad football team than that 4-game stretch where they were a good football team. There would be a larger stretch where they would be a combined 3-win football team. The 2-4 start, a 1-5 finish, be a bigger sample size of being a 3-9 team than a 4-0 team. Have they really made strides? That's what's on the line starting on Sunday. Controlling the narrative. Making the playoffs, while I thought it was a strong possibility when they got to 6-4 coming into the bye week, they have played their way out of that. I'm not going to say they have to make the playoffs in order for us to absolve Kyler Murray of this. He can play well down the stretch and give us a large enough sample size to where we can say, all right, let's take that conversation. We'll put it back in the box. We kind of flirted with it towards the end of the year, but let's just retool this offense. Let's beef up this defense, and then let's go next season. You play poorly, you can't sugarcoat that. You can't put lipstick on a pig. You can't convince me that there aren't real serious problems if this team, who's already 0-3 against the bye, if they lose on Sunday to the Patriots and they, are 0-4 since the bye week, we're going to start to have those serious conversations. If he doesn't play well and they lose on Sunday to the Patriots at home, then we got fooled. And the blame should be on us too. because we got fooled by that 4-game winning streak. We got fooled by that stretch if they lose on Sunday to the Patriots. So no, his job is not seriously in jeopardy for 2025. The contract makes it difficult. But the way he plays down the stretch, it will determine if the offseason is a conversation about 2025 being a make or break year yet again, or it just being another ho-hum offseason where we talk about how to make this team better. On the other side, we wrap up this edition of the lunch break with the leftovers. We do it next. KDUS AM 1060. You know, if baseball wanted to do something right now, that'd be cool. I don't care about press conferences. Willie Adames getting introduced as the new member of the San Francisco Giants. Juan Soto's press conference with the Mets is underway. I don't care. Because you're not going to admit what it's really about. You got paid the most money by these teams. That's why you went there. You're going to talk about, oh, man, I've been a fan of the New York Mets since I was a little kid. Always thought of the possibilities of playing for the New York Mets. Or the Giants, always an organization that I respected, right? You're going to see all these phony reasons. And listen, I get it. I understand. But you're not going to learn anything in these press conferences. Nothing's going to be revealed here that's going to change how you feel about this. Exactly. It is mostly just placating to the media. Yeah, I mean, you're going to get asked a bunch of questions throughout the year, and you can start making those relationships with those reporters, but we're not going to learn anything. So if Major League Baseball wanted to do something else, if somebody else wanted to sign, if the Diamondbacks wanted to do something, that'd be a great way for us to close the show here today with the leftovers to react to something like that. Alas, we do not have that, so we will do our basically rapid-fire story recap of all the things we didn't get to throughout the show. A couple of college football coaching news and notes. It looks like ESPN analyst Dan Mullen is headed to UNLV on a 5-year deal. The former head coach at Florida and Mississippi State, who now worked for ESPN, last coach in 2021. He is now going to go to UNLV to replace Barry Odom, who left to take the Purdue head coaching job. It feels like I am in a real-life version of the college football video game coaching carousel. But Barry Odom went 19-8 there in UNLV, and then he took the job at Purdue. And now Mullen, who's been with ESPN for the last couple of years, reportedly is headed off to UNLV. Okay. There are probably some people listening to this program that are fans of the University of Arizona. They are alum of the University of Arizona. They root for the football program. They maybe donate money. Maybe they're season ticket holders. I'm sure we have listeners of this program that are supporters of that university. We welcome you here. We'll make fun of you when ASU beats them. That's just what we'll do. But you are welcomed here. I apologize in advance because what I'm about to do might open up a wound. And I don't mean to do it, but we are just passing along the news. Former head coach of the University of Arizona, also was at Michigan, also was at Western Kentucky, went to a bunch of different places. Rich Rodriguez is returning to West Virginia. So he started his career there, right? He was the head coach at West Virginia. He, after 2006, he left for Michigan. Then after that, he went to the University of Arizona. He went 15-22 in his 3 years at Michigan, then went to Arizona, went 43-35 in 6 years, went to the Fiesta Bowl in 2014. They played in the Pac-12 title game that year, and they beat Oregon. So he had that moment. Then he left. He went to Jacksonville State. Back-to-back 9-4 seasons, won the CUSA title, has been around. He is now returning to West Virginia, who fired Neil Brown after a disappointing year there. So all roads lead home for Rich Rod. You're seeing a lot of this. Scott Frost is back at UCF. You're seeing a lot of, and this I think could really only happen in college football, where coaches who left, Rich Rod left in the worst possible way at West Virginia. He left, took the Michigan job. They sued him. There was a court battle. It was a disaster. And yet here we are all this time later. He is reportedly returning home. It's not reported. The school announced it today, but he is returning to the program and is hopeful to bring them back to prominence that they have not reached since he left. And so I apologize to the U of A people who probably don't want to hear the name Rich Rod and never want to discuss Rich Rodriguez, but it is a story because he is returning back to West Virginia after 17 years away. It's been away since 2007. He is returning back to the program 17 years later. Now, this is going to be a weird aside. I grew up on the East Coast, grew up in New York, grew up on Long Island. There's not a school program that is close. You can maybe root for Syracuse. You could maybe root for Rutgers, but there isn't like a team close. There isn't a team that you are just grown up in, right? In baseball, my dad was a Mets fan. He passed that down to me. My dad was a Jets fan. He passed that down to me. Those are teams that because they're close to you, you go to the games, they get passed down to you. College football, I didn't have that. So I had the entire world available to me. I could pick any college program I wanted. The team I picked, and I'm not just saying this because we're talking about the story, the team I picked and I rooted for and I still root for, except when they play ASU, and now they're in the same conference. I grew up a West Virginia fan. It's the team I picked. I grew up mesmerized by Pat White. Probably makes a lot of the older members of this audience feel even older when I say I grew up watching Pat White because that was only in like 2000, around the time Rich Rod was there, 2006, 2007. That's 18 years ago. I'm 12, right? I just turned 30 this year. So I'm still, a young pup. And so that was the team I gravitated towards because what Pat White was doing and Steve Slayton and Tavon Austin. Then I got to watch Geno Smith. I was enamored by what those teams were doing in college football because it felt like nobody else was doing stuff like that. And so I grew up with Rich Rod as my college football coach. So it's weird. It's nostalgic to me for him to be back. I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know if I like it. It feels like that's the way college is going overall. It feels like a lot of programs are doing this. We mentioned Scott Frost going back to UCF. I just don't know, but it does feel weird to kind of go back into a time capsule and say the guy that was the coach when I grew up watching a program and rooting for a program is now going to be the coach again all this time later, 17 years later. It just feels weird. It's just a very weird thing. Speaking of college, Travis Hunter named AP's Player of the Year. He's probably going to win the Heisman Trophy, but he won the AP College Football Player of the Year. Interesting. Let me share something with you here, producer Corey. So the AP College Football Player of the Year award, right? There were 43 votes. It's a panel of AP top 25 voters, right? 43 votes. Travis Hunter received 26 of the 43 votes. That's not that interesting, but I'm just giving you that number. Ashton Genty finished second. He got 16 votes. You know who was third on that list? Oh, it was ASU's running back Cam Scatterby, who got one first-place vote. Please tell me more why Cam should not be one of the finalists for the Heisman. Well, that's fine. It's only one. I disagree. I think he should be at least second place. I think there's an argument that he could be the Heisman winner. But he finished third with one vote. Those three should be your Heisman finalists. It should be Travis Hunter. It should be Ashton Genty. It should be Cam Scatterby. Those should be the three finalists in New York. And you want to have the conversation of the teams that Genty played and Scatterby in the conference and what he did. We can have that debate. But I will continue to pound the table of I don't understand why Scatterby isn't there. The AP voters figured it out. One person did the right thing and voted for him with one of the votes. No surprise that Travis Hunter won the award. No surprise when he ultimately wins the Heisman. He's a two-way superstar. He plays on both sides. He plays both sides extremely well. He's a very talented wide receiver. He's an extremely talented corner. He's going to be able to basically do whatever he wants in the NFL. He'll probably be, I think he's better suited to be a corner. I think that's where his skill set is best. But there's more money in being a wide receiver, so it's going to be a really interesting conversation that they have. But he is a playmaker. He's a superstar, and whatever team ends up with him, they're getting somebody really special. And I wouldn't be surprised that if he plays corner, that you have a couple plays a game where you can put him out there at wide receiver or vice versa. If he's an every down wide receiver, there are some moments in the game where maybe you fit him in as corner. I do think a team will have to get creative and get unique with the way that they play him. I don't think he's going to be able to do what he is doing in Colorado, playing both sides every single snap basically all the time. But he is your AP College Football Player of the Year, and that is not a surprise. He's been exceptional. He's been awesome. He's been one of the cool stories of the year for a Colorado team that had a good year, not maybe the year they expected, didn't play in a Big 12 championship game, aren't playing in the College Football Playoff, but 9 wins. That's something that they couldn't say a year ago that they had, or 10 wins, something they couldn't say a year ago that they had. They're going to play in a really marquee bowl game, and Deion Sanders has got that program in a really decent spot. We'll see if it's sustainable. We'll see if it's sustainable after Shedeur and Travis Hunter leave. But he has been one of the best stories of the year. So that's a bunch of college football stuff. Weird that on a just random Thursday there's been so much college football news to be had, but that's what you have here today on the program. That's what the leftovers is comprised of, a lot of college football stuff. We've got a Thursday night football game tonight, producer Corey, and I've been avoiding it all show. And do you want to know why I've been avoiding it all show? Because I'm considering making a pick. And and when I'm considering making a pick, I try not to talk about it until the last possible second. I did. Well, we did it. What was last week? Oh, it was fun. We hit the over. We took Packers Lions over. So I'm on a hot streak on Thursday night. Even more reason to pick. Well, here's why. And this is where we'll close the show. There's a lot of, I'm here to tell you right now, the Chiefs are 4.5-point favorites against the Browns. I'm not doing it. I'm not getting fooled by this. You've got the Ravens 16-point favorites on the road against the Giants. You have some really just bad games. Panthers, Cowboys, Jets, Jags. There's a lot here that is it's just ugly. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it. And so 49ers -3 interests me. That's what the spread is. That's not the pick. And so I'm looking at, let me just look through this one more time. You got Chiefs, Browns, Bengals, Titans, Commanders, Saints. Okay, Ravens, Giants, 16. I'm just looking through this, right? I'm just making sure that I don't see 5 really just huge plays. Gotta have it plays. And I don't. I don't see 5. I don't see 6. Gotta have it plays. So you know what? We're gonna do it. 3-point play. We're gonna just thread the needle middle of the road. We don't do this very often here on the show. 3-point play. Give me the Rams plus the 3. Give me the Rams as road underdogs in Santa Clara. I know the 49ers played well last week, but it was a bad Bears team that they beat up on. They looked bad against the snow. They've been banged up injury-wise. The Rams are a playoff team right now, coming off a thrilling win against the Bills. This feels like the perfect letdown spot for the Rams. They win the football game. They put the division in play. They get to 8-6. They put all the pressure in the world on the Seattle Seahawks. Give me the Rams to get to 8-6. Give me the Rams plus 3. That is the official 3-point play. So tomorrow on the program, a Football Friday edition of the show, we will have 5 more plays for you as part of the Schubert 6. We went 3-3 last week, 4-2 the week before, so we 7-5 over the last 2 weeks. I'll take that. I'll take being above 500 on a big sample size like that. We will try to continue it tonight with the Rams +3. I don't know what it is. I know it's a short week. I know normally the road teams don't play very well. I know it was a tough, close game against the Bills, but the Bills were home last week, and Santa Clara is not that far from L.A. It's not like they're traveling a great distance. Right, they didn't play in L.A. and now on a short week are playing in Green Bay or in New York. They're playing in California. So give me the Rams +3 as our 3-point play. That's going to do it for this edition of The Lunch Break. We will catch you tomorrow, a huge Football Friday edition of the show. Everybody, make it a great rest of your Thursday. See ya!